September 7, 2025 began like any other day in Kyiv until it didn't. The city, bathed in the soft glow of dawn, seemed to promise another ordinary morning. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered as if the city itself was holding its breath. The city clung to a fragile normalcy, with air raid sirens now background noise, a constant reminder of the war, yet so familiar that many barely flinched when they sounded. People went to work, children to school, all holding on to the illusion that the war was manageable, that life could go on despite the distant threat. Routines persisted, and hope lingered in small acts of defiance: morning coffee, a child's laughter, a hurried goodbye at the door. But that illusion shattered before sunrise as the sky erupted in sudden, blinding flashes. The siren's wail was sharper, more urgent, no longer a background hum but a piercing alarm that cut through the city's collective denial. Explosions ripped through the city, not distant thuds but direct, terrifying impacts that shook buildings and shattered nerves. Windows shattered, car alarms screamed, and millions were plunged into chaos. The streets filled with the sounds of panic, shouts, running footsteps, the distant wail of emergency vehicles. The attack was precise and overwhelming, targeting not just military sites but the city's very heart: government buildings, cultural landmarks, and crowded neighborhoods. Power stations, communication hubs, and water facilities were hit in the first wave, crippling the city's infrastructure in minutes. Entire districts lost power. The internet and mobile networks collapsed, leaving families unable to reach loved ones and authorities unable to coordinate a response. Kyiv was cut off, isolated, and thrown into confusion. The city's vibrant streets emptied, replaced by uncertainty and fear. The attackers aimed to break the city's spirit by stripping away the basics of modern life: electricity, water, communication, and the sense of safety that once defined home. As dawn broke, smoke rose from residential blocks and landmarks alike, painting the sky with ominous plumes that could be seen for miles. The air was thick with burning plastic and dust, every breath a reminder of the destruction that had just begun. First responders raced through debris-strewn streets, their sirens a desperate cry for help amid the chaos, risking their lives to save others. The barrage lasted for hours, a relentless assault, not a single event but a sustained attack that left no corner of the city untouched. It was a message from Moscow. The war had entered a new, more dangerous phase, one that would test the resolve of every resident and the world beyond. After months of relative quiet and diplomatic whispers, Russia unleashed destruction on a scale unseen in years, shattering any hope for a peaceful resolution. The city's sense of safety was gone in an instant. Families huddled in basements and metro stations, clinging to each other as the world above changed forever. Kyiv's residents faced a new reality. Nowhere was safe, and the rules of the war had changed. Playgrounds stood empty, streets deserted, and fear settled in like a heavy fog. The attack was not just military, it was psychological, designed to paralyze and terrify, to break the will of a city that had endured so much already. The world watched as Kyiv burned, realizing the conflict had reached a terrifying new chapter. News of the attack spread rapidly, and global leaders scrambled to respond. The dawn of September 7th marked the end of illusions, and the start of a far darker era. For Kyiv and for the world, a new and uncertain reality had begun, one that would demand resilience, courage, and hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. The September 7th attack marked a grim milestone, becoming the largest and most devastating assault in over 3 years of relentless war. The city of Kyiv, once bustling and vibrant, was plunged into chaos as the night sky lit up with explosions and the distant rumble of destruction echoed across neighborhoods. In a meticulously coordinated multi-wave offensive, Russia unleashed more than 250 missiles and drones, saturating Ukrainian airspace with a barrage unlike anything seen before. Hypersonic Kinzhal missiles, Kaliber cruise missiles, and relentless swarms of Shahed drones overwhelmed Ukraine's air defenses, pushing them to their absolute limits and exposing critical vulnerabilities. The Russian strategy was clear: use waves of cheap drones to exhaust Ukraine's precious interceptors, then follow up with advanced, harder-to-stop missiles to maximize destruction and confusion. The human toll was staggering and heartbreaking. At least 85 people lost their lives and over 400 were injured in Kyiv alone, with the numbers continuing to rise as desperate rescue efforts pressed on through the night and into the following days. Civilian areas bore the brunt of the attack. Shopping malls, universities, and apartment blocks were reduced to rubble, leaving thousands homeless and traumatized. Nearly 40% of Ukraine's power generation capacity was destroyed within hours, plunging entire regions into darkness and raising fears of a harsh, freezing winter without heat or electricity. Communication networks were crippled, paralyzing both government and military response and leaving millions cut off from vital information and emergency services. The economic cost soared into the billions, erasing months of painstaking rebuilding and threatening the livelihoods of countless families and businesses. This was a deliberate escalation. Either Russia had dramatically ramped up missile production, or it was willing to risk depleting its reserves in pursuit of a decisive, game-changing blow. The message from Moscow was unmistakable. Russia was prepared to pay any price, bear any burden, and escalate the conflict to achieve its strategic aims, regardless of the cost. The world now faced a new, more brutal phase of the conflict, as the scale and intensity of the assault signaled a dangerous turning point with global repercussions. The attack revealed a terrifying evolution in Russian tactics. Hundreds of Shahed drones swarmed first, forcing Ukraine to waste precious interceptor missiles. Then came low-flying cruise missiles, Kh-101S, Kh-555S, and Calibers, striking from multiple directions. The most chilling Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, nearly impossible to intercept, targeted command bunkers and government buildings. The attack was a masterclass in modern aerial warfare, overwhelming even advanced air defenses. Russia's intelligence and targeting had improved. The strikes were systematic, not random. Power, water, and communications were hit simultaneously to cause systemic collapse. This was not just brute force, it was calculated, intelligent, and ruthless. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical destruction. September 7th marked a new era war by paralysis and terror. The timing of the attack was no accident. It came days before a Geneva peace summit, a violent rejection of diplomacy. Moscow's message negotiations were off the table. The assault followed a new U.S. aid package for Ukraine, a direct challenge to Western resolve. Putin wanted to show that no amount of Western support could shield Ukraine. The attack also tested the new U.S. administration's commitment, probing for weakness. On the battlefield, a stalemate had set in, so Russia shifted to terrorizing civilians and crippling infrastructure. The goal: break Ukraine's will by making resistance unbearable. The world saw not just an attack, but a calculated act of political and psychological warfare. The message was clear: Russia would escalate no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the devastating attacks, President Zelenskyy appeared on the streets of battered Kyiv, defiant and unbowed. His presence among the ruins sent a powerful message to both Ukrainians and the world. He would not be intimidated, and neither would his people. He called the attack terrorism, a sign of Russia's weakness, not strength. Zelensky's words cut through the chaos, framing the destruction as evidence of the enemy's desperation rather than dominance. They think missiles can break us. They are wrong. Every strike only strengthens our resolve. His voice, steady and passionate, echoed through the shattered streets, inspiring hope where there was fear. Zelenskyy praised first responders and citizens, promising to rebuild and urging unity. He thanked those risking their lives to save others, calling them the true heroes of Ukraine. His message to the world was clear: Ukraine needs more air defenses, not just words. He urged allies to move beyond statements and provide real support. We need more Patriots, more jets. Only a shield in our sky can stop Russian missiles. Zelensky's plea was urgent, underscoring the daily threat faced by millions. He turned Russia's aggression into a plea for greater Western support, reminding the world that Ukraine's fight was also a fight for democracy and freedom everywhere. Speaking in Russian, he addressed the Russian people directly: "Your government is spending your future on missiles to kill our children." His words aimed to pierce the fog of propaganda. He aimed to sow doubt in Russia and highlight the Kremlin's moral bankruptcy, hoping to awaken the conscience of ordinary citizens. Zelensky's presence was a symbol of leadership, standing with his people, not hiding. He walked among the ruins, offering comfort and solidarity. His words rallied Ukrainians and challenged the world to act. The spirit of resistance grew stronger with every speech, every gesture. The attack became a call to arms, not a cause for surrender. Volunteers lined up, determined to defend their homeland. Zelensky's defiance echoed far beyond Kyiv's ruins, inspiring people across continents and reminding the world of Ukraine's courage. The world saw a leader refusing to yield, a nation refusing to be broken, and a story of resilience that continues to unfold. For Putin, the attack was a calculated gamble. With the ground war stalled, he escalated to force negotiations on his terms. The barrage was political theater for hardliners at home, proving his resolve. Internationally, he tested the new US administration, hoping for a window of opportunity. Putin bet that shock and horror would fracture Ukraine's will and Western unity. But this strategy risked backfiring, galvanizing resistance instead of breaking it. The stakes had never been higher, and the risks never greater. The world condemned the attack, but divisions quickly surfaced. European leaders called it a war crime and promised more aid and sanctions. The UN convened, but Russia's veto blocked any real action. The Trump administration condemned the assault but stopped short of promising new military support, creating uncertainty. China and India urged restraint, refusing to blame Russia. Many in the global south saw the war as a distant problem, unwilling to isolate Moscow. Mediators like Turkey struggled to maintain neutrality as the brutality escalated. The attack forced countries to choose sides. The middle ground was vanishing. The shockwaves went beyond Kyiv, shaking the global order. The world was being redrawn, alliances tested, and neutrality made impossible. September 7th was not just a Ukrainian tragedy, it was a global reckoning. Trump's return to the White House brought new uncertainty. His America First stance worried NATO and Kyiv alike. After the attack, his administration condemned Russia, but Trump's own statements were ambiguous, blaming past US aid for provoking escalation. This sent chills through allies, hinting at a possible retreat from support. Inside the administration, hawks and isolationists clashed over the US response. The future of American policy, and Ukraine's survival, hung in the balance. Would Trump back Ukraine with weapons or seek a quick deal with Putin? The fate of Europe now rested on one unpredictable leader. September 7, 2025 became a turning point in the war. Hopes for diplomacy vanished. A new, more brutal phase began. Ukraine faced a humanitarian crisis as winter loomed and infrastructure lay in ruins. The psychological toll was immense. No city felt safe. The West was forced to confront its reliance on US leadership. The attack unified Ukrainians, hardening their resolve for military victory. Russia doubled down, locking the conflict into a cycle of escalation. The world saw how a regional war could threaten global stability. The future depended on how the US and Europe would respond. The smoke over Kyiv cleared, but uncertainty and fear lingered everywhere. The world entered a darker, more dangerous era.